Radiometric dating is a method science has used to estimate the age of geological strata since the 1940s. Here's a summary of how it works. In igneous rock, a kind of rock formed through the solidification of lava, certain radioisotopes are found. These radioisotopes have a specific fixed rate at which they decay into other elements. The rate of decay is described as a half-life, the amount of time it takes for half of the radioisotope to decay. Isotopes like uranium-238 have a staggering half-life of 4.5 billion years, while isotopes like carbon-14 have much shorter half-lives of 5,730 years. By taking the amount of a radioisotope within the rock and comparing it to the amount of that radioisotope the rock had when it first solidified, scientists are able to calculate the rock's approximate age. Igneous rocks are home to a conglomerate of different radioisotopes, so the calculation using one radioisotope can be corroborated by using a different radioisotope in that rock. If one scientist uses isotope X and calculates that a rock is 100 million years old, their work can be further proven if they derive the same age by using isotope Y or isotope Z. This is an example of an in-subject corroboration, but there is a much more magnificent way to corroborate radiometric dating, something I call a cross-subject corroboration. The story I'm going to tell highlights the best example of a cross-subject corroboration that I have come across in the history of science. It demonstrates the coherency of science. In other words, how our scientific understanding of different facets of our universe come together and cohere and corroborate with each other. The American paleontologist John W. Wells used radiometric dating on fossilized coral reefs and calculated that the specimen that he had was extant approximately 380 million years ago, during the Devonian period. Before explaining the way Wells was able to corroborate the date given to him by radiometric dating, I must first explain the concept of tidal friction. Oceanic tides are caused by the moon's gravitational pull on the Earth. As the Earth rotates, the tidal bulge created by the pull of the moon generates friction, and this friction serves to slow down the rotation of the Earth, while having no effect on the revolution of the Earth. In other words, the speed at which the Earth rotates is decreasing due to tidal friction, but the speed at which the Earth revolves at is fixed. This means that the amount of time the Earth takes to complete one full rotation, or the amount of time in a single day, is actually increasing, and since the speed of the revolution of the Earth remains constant, the number of days in a year has to be decreasing. If we were to start winding back time, we would see that the Earth would progressively rotate faster and faster, but continue to revolve at the same speed. This means that the number of days in a year in the distant past must have been greater than it is now. The rate of tidal slowing caused by tidal friction, however, is minuscule. Tidal friction slows down the rotation of the Earth by just 2 milliseconds every 100 years. This means that it would take 100,000 years for just a 2-second increase in the amount of time in a day. Using the known rate of tidal slowing, which is again about 2 seconds every 100,000 years, John W. Wells calculated that during the time the coral reef fossil was extant, about 380 million years ago according to radiometric dating, the Earth completed a full rotation every 22 hours, which also meant that each year, 380 million years ago, consisted of 396 days. What kind of empirical evidence could verify his calculation? In dendrochronology, scientists can use the number of rings in a tree to calculate the tree's age. Coral reefs are similar to trees. As they grow, they record both daily rings and annual rings inside of them. Wells made a prediction. If radiometric dating was correct, then if he were to count the number of daily rings within the annual ring in his coral reef fossil, the number of daily rings should roughly correspond to the 396 days he predicted when he calculated the rotation speed of the Earth absent 380 million years worth of tidal slowing. The number of days Wells predicted the Earth had per revolution 380 million years ago was 396. After counting the number of daily rings within each annual ring in his fossilized coral reef, Wells discovered that the coral reefs experienced 400 days every year. This meant that each day during the time the coral reef fossil was alive was 21.9 hours, which is a minuscule difference from the 22 hours that Wells had predicted. And as such, Wells corroborated radiometric dating by using the mathematics of tidal friction alone. Wells was able to use our understanding of radioisotope decay rate to calculate the age of the coral reef fossil, and then used our understanding of the moon's gravitational pull causing tidal friction to slow down the Earth's rotation to predict the number of days experienced by 380 million-year-old coral reef fossils, and this prediction corresponded with the ring record in the coral reef fossil. The age of the coral reef calculated using the tidal slowing rate agreed with the age of the coral reef calculated through radiometric dating. When laws and theories from different scientific disciplines are used to corroborate each other's findings in ways as evidently specific as shown in the case of John W. Wells, what more evidence could you even ask for?
Mojo does not respect consent. Plug don't speak English, I ask what he meant. Sold weed to a white boy and his name was Trent. I be selling crack rock out of Corvette. Set off fireworks around my grandpa, he's a war vet.